Good day everyone, so hope you're all doing really well. Recently I made a video on feature creep in Genshin Impact, and I think a lot of people really missed or misinterpreted the high level discussion that I was really going after. So what I'll do in this video is actually go over the discussion again, but explain the points in meticulous detail. So hopefully everyone can really understand what we're actually talking about instead of giving me comments like, oh my god, you're just salty, because comments like those are really irritating. And I've got a special message for all these little hate comments towards the end of this video. But in any case, so let me re-explain the problem of feature creep, and I'm going to do this from a very simple basis. So with me, just imagine, as you can see on the map, you're in Azuma and there is this daily commission. This daily commission requires you to beat up enemies at a specific place, and the way to get to this enemies or to this special place is by crossing the water from the nearest teleport waypoint. So how do you do this? Well, the gamer inside of you says, ooh, I've got a problem. How do I solve this? I can either A, swim, or I can B, use Mona or Ayaka, or I can use Wanderer, or I can use Kokomi's Elemental Burst, etc. The point here is that each one of the methods that enable me to get and to solve this objective has an implicit value attached to it. And this value depends very much on what you are trying to do in the game. So for some people, if the only goal is just do the commission, get the primo gems, then honestly it doesn't matter how you get across the body of water. Fair? So what happens now when a character comes out that can just instantly walk like Furina across the water, zero cost? She can do it infinitely, she can do it a lot easier than all of the other characters, and she can heal you along the way. Well, of course, this means that there is value there. You can do this much more efficiently, but as we've just said, the only thing you care about is solving the puzzle. I solve the puzzle, I get the primo gems, I can impulse pull on the banner, and that's it. So for you, you might say it doesn't matter if someone can walk infinitely over water. And I would 100% agree with you. Where I don't agree with you is saying that the option to walk infinitely across water has no value, because it still has an embedded value. And this embedded value is something that you can call upon. It's something that you can exercise. It's an option you can exercise if you so choose, if it has value to you, and if it doesn't have value to you, then you don't exercise it. So when we then talk about feature creep, we're not talking about the value of the option in any given circumstance or moment. We're talking about the existence of that option, of that feature that's being added onto a character, and whether that is fair or not. So another way to think about this is to say that every limited 5-star character in Genshin Impact, assuming you're at 0 pity, will on average, statistically, including the 50-50, cost you 90 pulls in the game. That is the cost of getting the character. So what makes the relative cost of a character expensive or cheap? Well, it is stuff like these embedded options, because if you gain more options or different ways of playing the game for the same cost that you would with all the characters or other characters in the game, then arguably that unit is more worthwhile. Why? Because the cost is fixed. So for a given fixed cost, if you get more out of a character, then hence that character would arguably be more valuable. So when people argue with me and say to me that, oh look, it's no big deal, being able to walk on water is meaningless, what they're actually saying is that this option, this embedded option that's being added onto a character's kit, is being assessed as having zero value when it comes to pulling on the character. In other words, you've implicitly said that in all of the conceivable circumstances that you could find yourself in the overworld, there is no circumstance in which you would arguably exercise this option over the alternatives. So basically, you should not account this feature when you assess the value of Furina and whether you should pull on the character or not. That is what the people are saying, and my argument is that of course there are situations in which it's superior to exercise this option, in which case that embedded options value, the value of being able to exercise your rights is non-zero, and hence it makes Furina arguably a lot cheaper to get relative to the older characters. This is what we are talking about, but this entire argument goes a lot deeper, and this is the other thing that people missed in my previous video, because what I said was you have an option to walk freely on water, you have an option to use Numa and Osea mechanics at will, which has implications for the Spiral Abyss, the endgame content of the game, and for traversing in the overworld. And what this means is that that option value plus this other option value really means that Furina is relatively cheap compared to other characters. You get so much more for the exact same price, and the entire question was, is this actually fair? And this is now where the second part of the argument comes in, and people will tell me, but look, Furina is an Archon, of course she can be valuable, of course she can, for the exact same price, have extra add-ons that'll just make her or elevate her above all the other characters. And to me that is really a very terrible argument, because in Genshin Impact's history we've seen that characters like Venti and Zhongli don't have all of these embedded features. In fact, Zhongli had to get extra features in order to make him more valuable, because he was actually lacking as an Archon. That was part of the initial design in the game. There's nothing really unique about Venti, because he fits into the archetype of a lot of animo units. If you look at the animo units, they actually give you overworld exploration buffs. So something like Shao allows you to use his E mid-air, Kazuha you can use his E in mid-air, Venti can create air currents, Sayu can roll around in the overworld. Animo units have always had this implicit ability to traverse and gain a couple of exploration advantages due to their typing. Lynette obviously being able to dash just like Yelan can. So this is an example of where the features and the values that you get are part of what you'd expect, and that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is that over and beyond what you'd expect from a character, are these features actually fair? And this is why I've argued that Neuvillette is not really fair, because he's got all of these extra things. And now we're coming to Furina, and we are really asking the question that for the exact same amount that I need to pay for Furina that I would pay for any other character in the game, is this fair that she gets all of these benefits, all of these advantages, including extra lore and extra story? It really becomes a question of saying, is it really okay for Hoyo to have comparatively worse characters in the game just so that they can sell you better characters and that you feel good about at least not getting the character that no one else is going to play? In other words, some characters, in my opinion, are deliberately set up to be the fall guys so that the other characters look like a fantastic deal that you would have gotten. And I don't like this philosophy. I like the philosophy of treating all the characters fairly, giving them an equal representation in their lore. Yes, we know that from an operational perspective, you won't ever get fair treatment. It's just that the extent to which some characters are treated over other characters, yet whilst they still cost the same, is just too much. That gap is just too wide. And what I'm arguing with feature creep is that that gap is keeps on widening, and I don't think it is healthy for the game. So that is really what my entire video was all about. So let me then end this video off with a little special message. When people say to me that in my previous video I was salty over the fact that Furina can walk infinitely in water and my precious Kokomi can only do it for 10 seconds, I really want to tell you guys that I'm not salty about that, because as people rightfully should know, Chloe, I love Furina. I've been really crazy about getting Furina. I've saved up almost like, I think, more than 200 pulls without spending any money just to get Furina. I've waited months and months, haven't pulled anything just to get this character. I'm not salty that she can do the things that she can do. That is not even a question for me. What I'm going to do is absolutely abuse her ability to walk on water, because that gives me longevity, that gives me more option. It has a lot of option value to me because I can take more pictures, I can have special effects and circumstance that I can set up, and I can also then obviously take more pictures with Kokomi, never minding the fact that Kokomi and Furina, well, we'll get to how well they work when the time comes out. I don't want to say too much, otherwise I can get into trouble. But I'm not salty about Furina. I like Furina quite a lot, and I like Kokomi quite a lot, and I think it's just more so it's more so an honest high level question about the game that I'm trying to address, rather than a specific complaint about one character being better than another character. I'm looking at this game from a very high strategic level. So when people come to me and say to me, "You're just salty," it's almost like they're saying, "Oh yeah, whatever you've said, I've just dismissed it all by calling you salty." And then the entire discussion and the entire engagement just then breaks down. And this is the crazy thing. Let's assume I was salty. Let's assume I really didn't like the fact that Furina has now power crept Kokomi or whatever by walking on water infinitely. What does that got to do with the argument? What does being salty actually affect with what is being discussed in the moment? Nothing. The whole "you're salty" is just a random insult someone tries to throw because they've got nothing of value to say back, and I'm gonna call it out. I think it's lazy thinking. It is very low level engagement, and unfortunately that is the type of thing that really pisses me off, because it just means that you are wasting my time, and unfortunately my time is actually very precious. For the people that do know me, you'll know the type of work and job and stuff that I do. So when I do have free time, I prefer to get some form of engagement that is worthwhile to me, and comments like that are unfortunately not worth reading. In any case, so that is my thoughts and message to all the salty callers in chat. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Cheers.